The topic of digital IDs is something that a lot of people are becoming engaged in. We're seeing a lot of discussion threads, people are asking us about it. So I thought I would just have a chat about it and just share my thoughts. Recently, I noticed a discussion thread where people were talking about digital ID with particular reference to Paraguay. And there seems to be some merit in the view that Paraguay is looking to go down that path. And in this thread, they were talking about alternate places that they could go to where they wouldn't have to put up with such things. And there were some countries that they were discussing that if you knew anything about these particular countries, they're probably the last places you'd ever want to go, particularly if you're the sort of person that is concerned about things like digital ID, because clearly digital ID is part of a bigger apparatus that will be designed to control people. So I just want to share my thoughts firstly about how I see things with digital ID as it relates to Paraguay. I kind of take a global perspective on this. And what I mean by that is that digital ID isn't a country by country proposition. It's a very carefully thought out strategy that people way above the pay grade of those that are running a place like this and the place that you're sitting in now have thought about for a long time. And as we speak, it's being implemented in just about every country in the world. But what's kind of interesting is that, just like many things, it's being done in ways that a lot of people can't actually recognise it for what it is. It's like the censorship laws. In the UK, they're bringing them in for one reason. In other countries, they're bringing them in for another reason, apparently, or as far as the media will report. But in reality, they're all going to result in the same thing. And that's really essentially the same thing with digital IDs. If they're not in a place near you, they will be at some stage. But this thread that I was particularly talking about from these people who are talking about alternate countries, I was thinking, well, where are they getting the information about these other countries that they're considering? I did a little bit of digging and I found that it seems that they're getting their information from maybe one or two of the passport bros, the guys who have got a passport for each and every country. And one in particular was, highlighting the fact that this place was looking to go down that path, but don't worry, because he had X and Y and Z and A and B and C and the rest of the alphabet of small countries, some of which you've never heard of, where you'll be able to go and grab your passport and you will be never bothered by the things that will come to places like this and the place where you're sitting now. And it's really just a ploy. It's a strategy to create fear, because when fear is in the room, expansive thinking leaves. And it's the most common sales strategy in the planet at the moment. My parents grew up in the age of hedonism and then greed, but I'd say that we live in the age of fear. And at least since 2001, I think that program has been on full throttle. A lot of people are making decisions based on things that they're noticing that are causing them to be fearful. And so they go about making decisions, like life-changing decisions, like getting passports and citizenships, moving to countries, just based on their feeling that they want to get away from something, that they're fearful of something. And it's really the worst mindset to be in when you're making these sort of decisions, because I think that we can really differentiate a mindset of concern to that of fear. And I would posit that a concern mindset is one that has a particular perspective on a situation based on its realities, but it still has the presence of mind to look at the parts of that issue and strategize a solution, at least for them. But in a fearful state of mind, I think it goes up a notch, and the effects of flight or fight kick in, and we tend to just make decisions based on our very narrow view of that problem, because that's what fight or flight does. Fear tends to narrow our focus, and we just want the immediate threat or problem to be solved. And some of these passport bros know very well that that's the case, because if people were to adopt a concerned perspective, yep, okay, there's an issue with the country I'm living in, or perhaps a place that I'm thinking about going to, is buying another passport to some place I've never heard of, is that going to solve my problem? And I think what people would tend to come to is a position where they would realise that between the time of the last thing that caused a lot of fear around the world and now subsequent health implications, and now all of our countries have been feverishly in discussions with the global institution that will be running the next event, particularly in reference to global travel. And this has relevance to the topic of having multiple passports, and that being your method of preparing for whatever's to come. Because when the next big thing comes our way, they will be vastly more coordinated and swift in their actions, particularly as it relates to international travel. And I would suspect that the notion of being able to rely on having sufficient time to deal with your issues and to hop on a plane in an orderly manner and depart to that idyllic location that you've got prepared for such a time, well, good luck. I'm not saying it won't be possible. All I am saying is that the arrangements to inhibit that kind of thing will be definitely in place. And it's not a deal breaker. Everyone's got to make their own assessment, but it is a consideration that I would think would be worthy of making when you're talking about investing, in some cases, an astonishing amount of money into getting another passport or several. And I just think it's something that's really worth thinking about. But you're not going to be thinking about it if you're in the mindset of fear. The other consideration that I would be thinking people might be just mulling over is, how does it work out when the next big thing happens and you just do manage to hop on a plane and fly to that place? What does it look like at the other end? What have you got in place, or do you have anything in place? How does it work when you go to a place like this or any other in the midst of a global situation with all of the turmoil that throws up in every country, including this one, will you be in a position where you'll be able to settle and get on with life in a time of such turmoil? Well, everyone's got to answer that question themselves. Personally, I know that having arrived in several countries over the last few years in comparatively good times where nothing in particular is going on, that's a real challenge in itself. And when you arrive in a new country, everything is new, and you are at the mercy of people who you are asking about information in that new place, and it's just a whole new ball game. So arriving in a country in the best of times is a challenge. Arriving in a new country at times of high stress, like the sort of times that would cause people to hop on a plane and put into place their plan B or C or D, well, I would just say that that would be a very challenging situation. And again, it's something that people might be up for. And by thinking about these things, at the very least, they may decide to put extra things in place, perhaps in those places that they've got their alternate plans invested in. Whatever it is, hopefully people will be thinking about these things and making the necessary adjustments. Also, if they're thinking out of a mindset of concern, when the passport bros, for example, throw up a concerning video about the country that they're in or the country they're thinking about going to, but then put up another option, and you think about, hey, that's just for me. Well, before we make that decision, we might do some real due diligence into that country that they're selling the passport for, and truly identify whether that's going to be a viable option. Because if they're not doing something there today, let's say, for example, digital ID, well, inevitably they're going to be doing it, whether it's tomorrow, next week, another form of it, or they've got something else in place that pretty much does the job of it. There's no way that things like CBDCs and digital health, all of these things that they're already got in place, but are just in the process of implementing, there's no chance that they're going to allow a portion of countries to somehow just skirt around that. It's just not based in reality. The truth is that there's something rolling out in the whole world, and it has been for a number of years, and Paraguay is part of that world. So to the extent that it has to, it rains on all of us. And I think that it really highlights the reality that there is no perfect place. I hear these passport bros talking about countries that I've never actually heard of, or if I have, they're the sort of places that I would have thought, well, there must be a whole lot of other issues that you'd need to consider. But they sell them with such confidence, but it's usually after talking about some hyped up concern that they have, that they elevate into a issue of fear porn. And I can see once people are at that point, people are just going, yep, what do I have to pay? And then often they're just satisfied with the fact that they've got plan P perhaps for placebo. They're not just going to allow people to just merrily skate over the troubles of the world. That's for a few levels up. But everyone's got their own perspective on this, and some people might say, no, it's all going to be sweet and dandy and all you need to be able to do is go to that place and it's all going to be cool. Great, if that's what you want to believe, then go for it. But as long as you've made that decision based on good information and sound strategic thinking, well, I think good luck to you, and you know, everything will work out one way or the other as it's meant to. And amongst all this, you also need to have the conversation with yourself about the amount of money that you may be spending on a perceived solution like another passport or 10. Because the sort of money that they're talking about in these situations of getting another passport is eye-watering, and that's why they call themselves things like filthy, rich, capitalist, fill in the blanks, passport bro, because they need people, I guess, who have got so much money that investing how many zeros into buying of a passport isn't a problem for them. And that's cool, good luck to them. Everyone to their own, and if people can find a way through it, I'm the first one to celebrate and congratulate them. But the best chance of that will be when people are thinking rather than just reacting to fear. And I guess that's what this video is largely about, fear. We see too much of it, and we've seen some of the worst decisions that people have made, some life-altering, irreversible, disastrous situations that have been created based on people's behaviour when they were feeling fearful. The people who are truly running this circus, well, they're all about fear because they know what it does. It creates situations where even the most intelligent people can make some of the most silly decisions. And we've seen that in many of our countries. Some of the most educated countries in the world, some of the most affluent, intelligent, switched on societies, well, they were the ones that have been worst hit. And now they're scratching their head with all of these vastly inflated stats of certain health conditions. And nobody's actually talking about the thing that happened in the last few years that may have probably contributed or even caused the several 100% increase in those conditions that I'm alluding to. But why aren't they talking about it? Well, because they're scared. If they talk about it, oh, what could happen? What could happen to my job? What could happen to my social relationships? You know, once again, the good old tool of fear is used with great effect. So that's why, largely, it's in place in this world, and that's why there are people now who are using it in all sorts of ways to sell things, to make you invest in things, to cause you to make decisions for you and your family that if you truly were thinking clearly and expansively, you wouldn't be making some of those decisions. But for us, well, we're just happy to be in a country where, regardless of the fact that it's part of the world, for a large part it doesn't feel like it. And life is made up of many micro freedoms. You know, the freedom to be able to do what was once considered just things that you were able to do in countries that I've lived in. Well, they're the things that I really celebrate in a place like this. You know, all things to think about. I don't think anyone has got a monopoly on the best ways to fly, because there's all sorts of variables. And so I guess we just need to all relax in respect to where we're at physically and what our plans are like and what we have in place. And that is the best mindset to probably be in, because when you relax, you're probably not as fearful, which is a very good starting place. But apart from that, I did wake up fearful this morning because I realised that I was out of coffee, which is a genuine disaster. So I'm just walking to my favourite place, which is Paraguay Box, and this is where we get things sent to us from the US and other places. We get it shipped to a location in the US and then it gets forwarded to Paraguay Box, and it's pretty efficient. We buy things from Amazon and wherever else in the US and other places, and it gets sent here. But they're also distributors of my favourite coffee. So for those reasons, Paraguay Box is my favourite place where I've had most joy, I think, and they always have what I need as long as they're open. Sometimes, occasionally, I come and, you know, they might be busy or something, but it's a Saturday morning and I think they will be there. And if they're not, I'm going to have to go to the cafe that serves my best coffee and see how we go. Well, it's looking a bit dark. Oh, hang on, I see a leg. Stand by. I think we're in luck. So crisis averted. Good old Paraguay Box has come through for me again. My fear's gone and I'm far more rational, or I at least will be once I get my coffee into me. And that's what it's all about. We bought our plunger from the place that we're living in. It's one of the few things that we brought. It's a plunger that we bought from IKEA about 100 years ago, and it's been everywhere. So it's our ritual, at least mine. My wife's given up, but you know, it's one of my few guilty pleasures. So there you have it. My thoughts about digital IDs, passport bros and fear. And I'm sure that everyone out there has got their own opinions about it and will make their own way. And that is what it's all about. I never wanted this channel to be about the world according to me or anyone on this channel. I've got an opinion, so do you. And we should celebrate the fact that, at least to a limited extent, on this forum, we're able to express it. And that's why I'm kind of a bit cryptic when I talk about some things, and people say, well, why don't you just say what you're thinking or what you're referring to? Well, I've got this theory that if I keep things a little bit on a lowdown, I'll stay off the radar to the extent that I need to in order to ensure that I can continue to fire up the video and talk absolute gabble. That's the plan anyway. So until next time, take care. Ciao.
Smoking rooms wherever you are. It's just about close.